Guys, welcome back to a new episode of the Boundary Riders podcast. A lot to talk about today. We're obviously going to take a look at the suspensions over the weekend. A little bit of news regarding the draft. And also, we're going to take a deeper dive into the Adelaide Crows and where they're at the moment. Of course, we have Flog of the Week, the tips, and our AFL fantasy breakdown as well. So let's not waste any more time. Let's roll the intro and get straight into it. And then Rankin from the pocket, don't tell me, Isaac Rankin!
Yeah.
He's just got the license for a brothel.
Well, I think Gather Round's going to be AFL this next season.
It's at the handle at the back. Nick Dacos to get the pies home. He's done it. So, guys, of course, it does seem like we've got a guest today. A little bit of a guest appearance as of. Well, I mean, are you going to make it every week now, or do you think it's just going to be one and done?
Yeah.
One and done?
Yeah.
You graced us with your presence today.
Yeah.
So if you haven't...
Every now and then I'll show up and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And make the show a little bit worse. So that's fair enough. So, yeah, my brother back. If you guys are new to the podcast, I think we've got a couple of new listeners lately. So, yeah, he's been in and out for the last couple of weeks just because of his work and that. But, yeah, I like when you're here because it's a little bit easier to talk and you stop
and you don't give a good rant on.
Oh, I mean, I can give a good. I've got a bit of one maybe today. There's not the Flog of the Week's directed at someone that I like, so it will be a little bit tempered this week. But yeah, I mean, we'll start with a couple of suspensions over the weekend, and two of them are to Port Adelaide because they're very ruthless players. They're
dirty.
Yeah, they're dirty players. Port Adelaide. So the first one was in the Sandful. In fact, Charlie Dixon was pushed back there after being dropped. He looks like he's going to be suspended for 3 matches for his hit on a West Adelaide player. Unfortunate, but I'm not surprised he got 3 weeks. If anything, I thought it could have got more.
Yeah, I think he was very lucky because of the concussion protocols now.
Yeah, I think that he's very lucky. It would have been interesting if if it was an AFL game, that he hit someone like that, if it would have been taken differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And then another one here was Zach Butters. He was offered 1 match. He is going to challenge it, but he did get offered 1 match for hitting the gut punch to Tom Green.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about that? Do you think we'll get a week for it?
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets off because basically a lot of gut punches and the sorts have been overturned this year. But the thing that could get him in trouble is the fact is that he did get him in the head to finish the action. So...
Oh, right. Yeah, he did hit him in the jaw. Sorry, not the gut punch. It was a jaw punch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
He may be able to overturn it, but I wouldn't be surprised if the week stands.
You think it's interesting that earlier in the year when he had a suspension looked at or whatever and it was not given, when there was a chance of him potentially winning a Brownlow, but now the fact that he's not going to win it this year, he hasn't had as good a year, they're more than happy to give him a week. Yeah. You think that's... Look, maybe it's a little bit conspiratorial, but I mean, I don't think there's any doubt that they treat players differently depending on if they're a Brownlow chance. Let's be honest.
Yeah, of course. 100%.
Do you think that's maybe a contributor to this?
Yeah, 100%. He was in the top 5 when he was probably at that stage of the season when he first got cited. Yeah. Now that he's definitely not in the top 10 at the moment.
Yeah, nothing's happened.
He
gets a week. I mean, maybe he'll get off. I don't know. I think that with a hit to the jaw, no matter the severity of it, I mean, obviously it wasn't that much. Tom Green didn't really flinch.
Yeah.
Maybe we're just calling Zach Butters weak. But on the other hand, I think it's going to be a week, most likely. Yeah. And there was also another suspension as well. This one was to Dawson for North Melbourne. He has got a week as well. Unknown. I don't think they're going to challenge that one. So, a couple of suspensions there. It's basically all the ones that I wanted to take a look at. So, we'll move on. We'll talk about the draft. So, if you haven't heard about the draft news and that, apparently if you don't know, over the last couple of weeks, they've been talking about the potential of changing a bunch of draft concessions for fathers, sons, and academy players. So... Carlton in particular are pretty annoyed by it because they were expected to pick up 2 young players, the Camperali brothers. Apparently, there's two twin brothers. Obviously, Scott Camperali has kids apparently, and they're linked to Carlton. I don't think it's going to affect father-sons in that too much. I don't think it's going to be that drastic. But Michael Voss has been saying, if the proposed changes are made, then we will fall somewhat well short. Absolutely, you shouldn't be able to do that, making changes, especially this late in the season.
Yeah.
So I think it was Laura Kane came out today on SEN in an interview, and she was asked, these draft concessions or whatever, will they be coming this year? Or will they be waited till next year? And she said that they might come this year without really much time at all. I think it should not happen now.
No.
It should not affect this draft.
No, they've got 4 months before the draft.
Yeah. And this is supposed to be not even, even if it was done today, it would be 4 months.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be scheduled for around August.
Yeah.
So, 2 months before the draft?
So you've got all these list managers and shit who do nothing during the season, really. They don't do a lot.
Well, they don't do a massive amount.
They don't do a massive amount. But they get to this stage of the season, in halfway during the season, ran their bye, and they're like, oh yeah, what you guys did previously, what you did probably in pre-season.
Yeah, the players you've been tracking.
Yeah, the guys you've been tracking means bugger all, really.
Yeah, take all your plans off the table.
Yeah.
That's it. You don't worry about them. You've got to make a bunch of new ones.
Yeah, so all these future draft picks that these teams have got could...
their plans have to change.
Yeah, their whole plans change.
Yeah.
So
I think that it's probably a good idea. That I think it is a little bit of an overreaction. I think it's because of the Gold Coast Suns getting a lot of players in the draft last year that they've made a bit of an overreaction trying to get all this done now.
Yeah.
But it's just simply way too late to do it now.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't have it in place if you did it even around round 4 or 5 of the season, maybe I would say okay. Even though I don't really like them changing something that late, I still think that's okay. But the point is now it's round 14, 15. It's not going to be done until in the round 20s at the earliest.
Yeah.
There's no way it should be allowed to go through.
No, not at all.
So I think there's probably a decent idea about making some changes to father-sons and academy players, that clubs have to pay a little bit more because they have an access to the player. I think that's fair enough. I think it is a little bit unfair on the side at the moment. That's me saying that as a Swan supporter when we've got a lot of them. It is a little bit unfair that you just get access to them no matter what, really. I mean, I think you should be giving up a little bit more to then have access to a guy who has been training and is like a top 10 draft pick or something. Even looking at the Bulldogs with Jamari Ugelhagen, they didn't have a pick anywhere near pick 1, and they were able to just grab him there pretty easily with really not much back pay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously they had to trade a few things out, and same with the Gold Coast this year. They had to do a couple of trades to get higher draft picks to then give them back to whatever the point system. But I think there's a little bit more they can do. So I don't mind that for next year, but you can't do it now.
No.
It's way too late.
Yeah, you can't give them 2 months' notice.
Yeah.
If you put in the rules in for next year, that's fine. Yeah,
in fact, if she came out with them on August to say, okay, this is what the rules are going to be next year, fine.
Because you can't do it. You can't let this happen before this trade period. Because if you do it by the trade period and all these future draft picks are all sorted, and then you say, that didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's and you bring in a whole new system. It completely...
I think the perfect time would be to do it this season, because they're also talking about allowing you to go for future draft picks 2 or 3 years down the track. Yeah. So I think it'd be perfect to do for next year. So then clubs can start getting those sort of things in motion.
Yeah.
But if she was to just throw it out this year, half-assed, not really thinking about it, it would be a disaster on the draft side. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking disaster on, big buildings getting smashed down or something when people are living inside of it. But I don't think it's that big a disaster, but it's still not good. Anyway, sitting still on Laura Kane. We're just a woman bashing this episode, apparently. No, we're not. But anyway, obviously over the weekend, there was a massive decision in the North Melbourne Collingwood game, which essentially could have cost North Melbourne the win. Shouldn't have dropped the lead by 50-odd points. But that 50 was 100% there.
Yeah.
Agreed?
Yeah, 100%.
I agree. You agree. anyone who doesn't have black and white like seeping out of their eyeballs would agree. Even most Collingwood supporters would probably say, yeah, that was probably 50.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of them that, you know, like have had like been injected with some sort of fucking stupid juice into their brain.
Like I would have thought after the game, if the roles were reversed and Collingwood
100% they would be fucking robbable.
I wouldn't be surprised if Eddie Maguire's going to court by now.
Yeah.
Asking what and
the thing is this is not on the level of the Ben Keys one, but it's close.
Yes.
I would say it's close. It's not on the level of that because I think Ben Keys
that was 100% a goal.
Yeah. No, who knows what Bailey Scott would have done? He may have missed.
Yeah.
And I mean, they had so much pressure on them. They clearly weren't living up to the pressure at that point. Who knows where that kick would have gone?
Yeah.
But
exactly.
it should have been 50.
Yeah, and yeah.
So the statement that Laura Kane came out and said may have been one of the stupidest things she could have said.
I think it was. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the quote.
Initial call mistake, if you like, was that play on wasn't called. Okay. It should have been called play on. And so I think Collingwood players, they're anticipating they're going to hear a call immediately post whistle. So really common discussion around players is play the whistle, wait for what's next. What's next didn't come quick enough. And so the confusion for those Collingwood players was what to do. As probably levels of confusion that sat with Bailey himself.
It's a great way of getting around.
So this is on the Footy Classified. I could not find the clip anywhere else, for fuck's sake. Anyway, now look, I understand that you got to give a little bit of leeway, but two players bolted over the mark.
Before even the umpire had even a chance to blow the whistle for the mark.
Well, no, the whistle was called that he marked the ball, and the players continued to charge.
Yeah, it's like they...
I mean, it was obviously 15, and it's not like they were still charging at him, and they didn't stop. So, like, he did move a couple of steps off his mark. But this is very similar. I remember it was about 4 or 5 years ago now. The Swans were playing against the Crows. And it's not the Ben Keys thing. But I remember Eddie Betts. I don't know if you remember this. The Swans were playing against the Crows. I think it was Callum Mills. He took a mark, and he went to play on. Eddie Betts anticipated the umpire would call it the whistle, and he didn't. And it was paid 50.
Yeah.
So now that's not in vogue anymore. That doesn't count. So that's pretty unfair. Yeah. So, and there's been no rule change about that. There's never been a rule of leeway. Now I understand that you got to give leeway every now and then. Obviously you do. But these two ran completely over the mark. Sidebottom and McQuarrie, I think it was, over the mark. Bush Bailey's, it was clearly them thinking that we've got to tackle. And the giveaway for me is the fact that Collingwood players were guilty as fuck. Did you look at their faces?
Yeah.
They looked like they were standing over a dead body. They were that guilty.
Yeah.
So...
And then it was funny straight away that Bailey Scott... Because he was running towards 50 because he thought he had a 50-metre penalty.
Yeah, he does...
And then he started running and then the umpire calls play on and then he's like, oh, fuck, I've got to kick this.
Yeah, so then he ran to the right and started to go and kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that's it's stupid. And I think it's very similar. You know, when you like see a criminal or something, they plead guilty to the lesser charge, so then they get a lesser sentence. That's kind of what it felt like with her saying that then. We're going to admit to the umpire getting it wrong, but on the side of, the players should have been, he should have been called to play on immediately. Which is less harsh than saying that giving away a 50-metre penalty. Because it's easier to say that North Melbourne should have been called to play on than we potentially gave up a game.
Well, it was like she was trying to blame the umpires because it was like, oh, well, if we blame the umpires, the public will be, oh, well, they finally blame the umpires. And then she's like,
yeah,
no, it was, it was the players.
Yeah, well, I think it's a lot easier for it's a lot easier for the AFL to say that the decision was wrong on the fact that it should have been called play on, because if they missed the call of play on, that's what happened in the end. Bailey Scott kicks it long and they don't get a goal from it. Instead of admitting to the fact that the decision that was wrong was not calling 50. Yeah. Because Bailey Scott could have kicked the goal. I mean, 8 times out of 10, he's kicking that goal.
I still believe that if it was in any other quarter, even if it was at the start of the quarter, the fourth quarter, they would have paid 50.
Yeah.
Late in the game, they're like, oh, well, we don't want to be wrong here. And
we've seen that so many times this year.
It just depends on the timing of the game.
Yeah. And I mean, look, I get that as well. Like, they're human and they don't want to make the wrong call late. But we've seen a lot of times this year that they make the wrong call late as well on both ways of, like, not calling it or calling it. Sam Draper, earlier in the year when he did that swan dive onto the footy, and they didn't call it because they were basically too scared to. And then, wrong call. And then on the other end of, like...
James Age. No, was it not James Age? Jordan Clark, sorry, for Freo.
Yeah, Jordan Clark, or more recent Jai Simpkin when he dove on top of Elliot Yeo. They called him holding the ball when it wasn't holding. Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't. Let's be honest. No. That's probably the two that I think of right now. I'm actually thinking of maybe doing a video covering the missed decisions this year, like all those really contentious calls throughout the year, because there's been, from what I can remember, I think 6 this year that could have been changed the games, just basically on free kicks. And I don't think we've had that essentially ever.
I think Mark Robinson was saying last time, one of the footy shows, that the umpiring at the moment is at its worst in the last 20 years. Maybe ever. So
I mean, just on eyeballs fact, you could probably make a case for it. I don't know the exact statistics. And I get that it's a very hard job to do, of course. And I think the majority of the blame has to go into the AFL, not just the umpires. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to just throw them under the bus. Laura Kane was pretty quick to do it, but I'm joking on that. But I mean, I feel like it's got to be on the AFL here. They've got to be better on the training of it. They've got to be better on who they recruit for it, because a lot of them are doing it part-time as well. Yeah. And they're like basically the most important people on the field. If you think about it, they're the ones making those decisions and costing teams games. They're not getting paid enough, which is another factor. But you could also make the argument on the other side of saying, well, why do they deserve to get better pay if they're not doing the job properly now? So there's a lot of swings and roundabouts about this whole situation. But at the end of the day, that was 100% 50-metre penalty. Yeah. I don't know how she could make the issue of, actually, it should have been called play on. It's like, well, it wasn't. So what was the call that they should have made? Yeah. It should have been called 50. And I don't even think he really played on anyway, to be honest. I mean, he did take a couple of steps a little bit. Yeah,
but I've seen so many players, even this year, even this probably in that game, that do the exact same thing.
And the umpire. I've even seen sometimes the umpire will go, no, come around on your mark and call him back. Yeah. That sort of leeway. But I just think that's a bit crap at the end of the day. And I mean, sitting on the umpires still, you did see the, I think it was Kane Corns was it either this morning or yesterday morning, talking about Nick Dacos getting umpired differently. Yeah. I mean, it's true, but also you could look at it the other way of saying that he gets umpired differently because he gets tagged and gets pushed around a lot. Yeah. So I think that statement is... I love it too, because he's obviously trying to get engagement from Collingwood fans. Yeah. And it worked perfectly. And he does it all the time. So if you're a Collingwood fan and you listen to... If you're an anyone fan and you listen to any of the journalists out there and you get angry and you don't have a podcast like us, no, but even if you do, if you have the issue, fine, comment, but just realize that they're looking for the engagement. Yeah, they're looking for the rage. That's why they do it, because they get clicks on their articles, they get more engagement on their posts. More people they get more eyes on them, and that's all they care about, really. Because it's not like a YouTuber or whatever. If a YouTuber does a bunch of clickbait all over the time, like for 3 or 4 videos in a row or something, they'll lose their viewers and their channel will start to suffer. Or they could even get their channel taken down. If you make clickbait article after clickbait article after clickbait post after rage bait, they own that platform. Yeah. So they may get banned on social media or Instagram, which they wouldn't. But even if they did, they'd still have their own platform. So, I just think that a lot of people don't actually realise that. And I'm making a video coming out, hopefully Monday, if I can get it edited in time, about the journalism in the AFL. Because I think that a lot of it has moved over to that side of like rage baiting and clickbaiting and all sorts of crap. So... I think that's another point to bring up. So let's move on from that. 100% a 50-metre penalty. Fight us in the comments. So moving into the Adelaide Crows. So the Crows have lost their last 3 games that I can recall. I don't know if they lost any more in a row. I think they've been. It's just their last 3, but the last 3 have been the most notable. The loss against Hawthorn, the loss against Richmond, and then the Swans this week. Now, with your unbiased thought of being a Port Adelaide supporter and having to not smile through talking about how poor the Crows are going.
Well, Port are doing much better at the moment.
Well, they're in the 4.
Well, they're at least in the 8.
They're in the 8, and they're doing a lot better. But yeah, I mean, we could talk about Port next week if they lose again. Don't worry, we can get to them.
I'm pretty confident that they will.
Yeah. So looking at the Crows right now, the news came out today that it is. This is from Theo Dropoulos on. Can you just call it Twitter? Stop calling it X. Fuck off. Anyway, he went and said that it's understood that Adelaide Crows CEO Tim Silvers is conducting a thorough review for the Crows football department staff and structure this week. Off the back of some ordinary performances, Matthew Nix's job, however, is not in jeopardy, which I think everyone kind of knew. How many reviews would this be now?
Well, since the 2017
grand final.
Since the 2017 grand final, I reckon it's up to 3, maybe 4.
Maybe 4 reviews. I think it was. Yeah, it's been 3 or 4. Yeah. So look, you can sit here and act like we hate the Crows or whatever, and I know that you don't have a fond of them. I've had to start liking them a little bit more because my wife's family are a lot more Crows supporters. So, but at the end of the day, I think that it's pretty safe to say that they're not going forward in this rebuild. Well, they shouldn't even be at the rebuild stage now. They should be at the point of making finals. Yeah. That's where everyone expected them to be this year. I did. You put them there. Yeah. I put them nearly top 4 this year in the predictions because we thought that they would improve. They would still be a good attacking team. I think they're ranked 12th for score this year. When last year they were the best team in the AFL despite missing finals. So they've dropped off there. Their defence, I thought, would come along a bit. And to be fair, I think the defence has been better than their forward line this year. Yeah. And most of them, like the likes of Nick Murray coming back last week, he's been out for the whole year. Jordan Butts has been in and out. Worrell did get recently injured, and he was performing well. But their defence has been probably up. It'd almost be their best line.
I think it is their best line. Their midfield's been
up and down. If it's not for Jordan Dawson carrying.
Yeah, and because what? Yeah.
I mean, their defence has been Hinge off the half-back line with Brodie Smith if he's playing, Wayne Millerev when he was not injured. They've probably had a lot more injury woes to their defence as well than you can think about. Mark Galani has been a very good small defensive player, but now he's kind of the last couple of weeks moved into the midfield to play as a tagger. Yeah. And he's done that pretty decently, I would say. It's very similar to how like a Rory Laird kind of moved into the midfield, or even I was thinking about it with Callum Mills, how he kind of did it, applied his craft in the defence and then moved into the midfield. Yeah. So I think that's a good idea. We'll talk about the Crows' high draft picks in a minute, but yeah, I think their defence has probably been one of their better lines this year, and that was their weakest last year. Yeah. That was when they were getting beaten. So that hasn't came along. Their midfield is shot, really. If it's not for Dawson doing it, Laird's had a pretty average year. And the other ones, who are their other good midfielders, really? Yeah,
well,
Rankin's been one of their better midfielders, and he should be an All-Australian full forward pocket.
Yeah. And what you got, Matt Crouch, who's injured now.
He was playing well.
Yeah, but all he did was get 30, 35 disposals, but most of them were handballs and most of them wouldn't.
The thing is with Matt Crouch, though, couldn't Sam Berry be doing that exact same job? And
now,
he's younger.
Well, in that recent game against the Swans, he was the sub, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. And I don't know why they're playing him as the sub. The games that he has played, he's played pretty well. I don't know if it's just his fitness. Maybe he's not fit to play full midfield minutes. I don't know. But I feel like he should be playing. Yeah. I don't think there's an issue with him why he's not playing.
And the one player that has played absolutely horribly this season is Josh Roselli.
No, I will say I know that he's been dragged through the mud for a lot of it, and I understand that he's pulling out a contest and that's not a good thing, but I do think at the end of the day, sitting in the cheap seats is a lot easier than.
But I think that they said pre-season they think that Rankin and Roselli were going to get midfield minutes. They've given it to Rankin, and a bit to Roselli.
But he hasn't deserved it.
But Roselli hasn't really deserved it. He's not playing at the level of to play in that forward line to begin with. He's very underperforming at the moment. Rankin even he was one of their bright shining lights so far.
He was one of their better players against the Swans too. When
Yeah.
they were all guns blazing against the Swans in the first half, I thought this is a team that's going to be fighting, at the end of the year to beating some top teams if they didn't make the 8, if they didn't make finals. But in the second half, especially after 10 minutes into the second half, they just capitulated.
Yeah.
They gave away a free kick. They gave away a 12-point play to hitting Taylor Adams in the stomach from Mitch Hinge, which Taylor Walker came out on the radio and said that was a dumb move, which, hot take from him, obviously.
Yeah.
But that shouldn't have been done, and that's where the game capitulated. But not even that. They were already starting to lose control of that game, and that just threw it away. I mean, they were 9 points down, I believe, when that 12-point play was about to happen. So they went down by 21 points, and that was game over.
Yeah.
They had a 23-point lead in the third term, I believe, and then just lost it.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have done. They can't do that if they're challenging for finals.
And I think that it's crap by the SA media to say, oh, well, at least they were in it for 2.5 quarters. No, let's talk about the last quarter and a half where you lost a game where you had the win.
I think they had Sydney on the ropes.
They were dominating.
Yeah.
And they did it without Taylor Walker. That's the thing. They were up by that much with no Taylor Walker there. If he was playing, they probably... Would they win?
Well, they would have put Sydney out of it, I think, to give them a real opportunity. Look, I will say, I guess that's a question as well. Has Taylor Walker gone too long? A year or two too long? I mean, look, obviously they couldn't have got rid of him last year. He had 71 goals in a season. But it's also stopped the development of Fogarty, who's been okay the last week or two by himself. If Thilthorpe was there, I feel like that would be a different avenue. And also Himmelberg's been out as well.
Yeah.
I wanted to look at something here. So looking at their recent Sandford game. So looking at the Sandford on the weekend, they did lose pretty comfortably by Woodville West Torrens. But their best performers were Riley O'Brien, who's obviously not in the team at the moment, Taylor, Ryan, Thomas, Pedler, Curtin, McDonald, and Clifford. These are like their AFL fantasy totals, but I do think that these are probably a decent indicator of how these players went. Maybe not, I don't know. But at the end of the day, looking at it, 3 of those players on that list were not even on their AFL list. So the likes of Thomas, McDonald, and Clifford aren't even on their AFL list. So O'Brien, who should be in the team,
I think that the last
I feel like he was a scapegoat. Yeah. I don't know why he was dropped.
I think that if he plays against Richmond, an experienced ruckman against Nick Curtis, they may have won that game. They probably do.
I don't know why he was the one who got dropped. He got dropped, I think it was last year as well at one point, and then came back into the team and played well. I don't know if that's what Matthew Nix is trying to do, but I feel like he was leading hitouts, and I think hitouts at the very least in the AFL about a month ago.
Yeah.
So they dropped him, I don't know why, but he had a very good Sandford game. Taylor, I do know, has got a lot of high hopes at the Crows. Ryan had a pretty decent game. Luke Pedler, I don't know where he's going to be. Daniel Curtin, I don't know why he's not playing. Like, just give him minutes.
I think he just needs minutes. And a top 10 draft pick, and you're not playing him and you're out of finals.
And there's also talk about now him potentially wanting to go back to Perth.
Yeah.
So get him in the fucking team.
Yeah.
Anyway, looking at it as well, these players did play in the Sandford, but not even in their best, not even playing that well at all. Burgess, I think, kicked 1 goal. McHenry didn't kick a goal, and Gallant as well. Now, I don't know how Gallant was getting games over Himmelberg last year anyway. How he was getting games last year, really, to begin with. I don't know what they're doing with him, if he's going to be in their team or not, because right now, I don't think he's anywhere near their best 22.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a bit of a struggle. Brodie Smith was injured in the game, so, again, I don't really know if he was playing that bad, but maybe just because he's a bit more experienced, they could just drop him and play a kid. But another one as well is Billy Dowling. Now, he's played well the last couple of weeks, but he should have been in the team earlier in the season.
Yeah.
He's shown in the last couple of weeks that he's built for the AFL. He had a good game the week before against the Tigers and they lost, and against the Swans he showed some good signs. Why was he not in the team halfway through, 6 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I remember we were at Gather Round when they lost to Melbourne, and people behind us at the Crows fans were saying, Billy Dowling's coming in next week because he's doing really well at Sandful level. Now, I don't follow the Crows Sandful as much, but I'll take the word of a Crows supporter behind us over, over my opinion of it. But at that point, why is he not playing? So Taylor as well here. After the bye, so 15. So they've got 9 more rounds. They're not playing finals. Get some games into the kids and see who can play, and put it on the agenda now that if you're not going to play for the jumper, you're not playing next year. Because I feel like they're just playing the favourites at this point. Like Rochelle, he's not playing well. Now I don't like the fact of just saying, he's weak as piss and all that sort of stuff. Because, I mean, look, it's a very tough game. And sometimes, I mean, you got to remember, the kid's like 21. Yeah. Like, God forbid if he fucking pulls it out every once in a while. But, on the other side of it, you're an AFL player. You should be holding your ground. So, but the simple fact is he's not playing well enough. So maybe he should be chucked back to the Sandful and give him a go in there and see if he can regain some form. Chuck Sam Berry in the team, for Christ's sakes. Even if you play him at forward pocket, play him in the team. God, he's shown signs of it. Defence, give Michael Andy some midfield minutes. I think that's fair enough. If he's going to be your tagger and then learn from that, I think that's a fair enough call. However, I do think he's a very good small defender at the moment as well. So I think you got to mix and match how you play that. Burgess, I don't know why they picked him up. I understand that he's did very well at VFL level, but they still he's not in their best team. He's not even in their best team now when they've got no Walker, no Himmelberg. He's not in your best...
And Phil Thorpe as well.
And Phil Thorpe as well. So Burgess isn't making your team?
Yeah.
So clearly that's not right. So that's another failed trade, you would almost put it at now. So what are your next plans here? Because there's not many kids coming through that you can pick from. Like, I just read them through them, and I don't think other than maybe Taylor... And I don't know how good that Ryan is. I have heard good news about that Taylor, but I think it's Zach Taylor. Daniel Curtin should be in the team. He should be, after the bye, he's in for the rest of the season unless he gets injured. Give him a go.
Yeah. Did you see that stat that since this rebuild of I think it was 2016, they've had I think 90 plus players on their list. Only one player's made their All-Australian.
Oh, that's
probably... And you know who it is, right?
Well, Isaac Rankin.
No,
sorry, not Isaac Rankin.
Jordan Dawson.
Oh, Jordan
So
Dawson.
the one trade out of their entire list rebuild, they've had one player was from a trade who wanted to come home.
Yeah.
And that's a damning stat.
Yeah.
That's there's no
I don't know where. Yeah, I don't know.
Where's this
where's
next
the
generation coming from?
Yeah,
they've been.
Now look, probably this year I'd say Isaac Rankin probably is close to the All Australian team, and maybe Dawson as well.
Yeah,
but who else is there?
Exactly.
None of them are making anywhere near it.
You could say Michael Annie, but if he goes and plays midfield, he won't get in there.
Yeah.
So,
if you're looking at the 40-man squad, I'd say Michael Annie probably isn't at that point yet, but I do think that he'd be high up in their BNF. Let's just put it that way. So I was looking in as well. So at their injury list at the moment, Himmelberg may be back this week. Crouch, Miller, and Parnell are out for the rest of the season. I don't know if Parnell would be in their best 22, but Phil Thorpe probably a week or two away. He'd probably go Sandful, I would say. Worrell's out for the majority of the season, and Taylor Walker I would expect to be back this week.
After the bye,
So So they do, look, on that side of it, they do have a few players that would be in their best 22 on the injury list. But Collingwood have a huge injury list. Carlton have had a huge injury list, and they're in the top 4.
Yeah.
This team was supposed to be, I expected them to be in the 8 this year. This team doesn't have the depth to make the 8 unless everyone plays. And last year, I don't think they had that many injuries. So, look, when your depth is tested, it sometimes shows who's got a good list or not. Clearly, they haven't built the list out properly. Well at the moment. Now, another thing I want to take a look at is their... What was the other thing? Oh, they hired their first round draft picks over the past, 8 years. So they're basically their last 10 draftees in first rounds. So going back to 2016, so this is just before their grand final. So I think they made, was it the semi in 2016? It was either the semi or the prelim. I do remember they won the first game against the Bulldogs. So that was Jordan Gallucci. He's off the list. He's gone. So that was a complete fail. 2017, so this is just after the grand final, Darcy Fogarty. I'd almost
I
give
think
it. I'd give it a tick.
Yeah, I think you would. I think he's
taken a while, but I think he's give him a tick at the end of the day. Chase Jones in 2018, along with Ned McHenry.
Chase Jones, I'd say a question mark.
Are they worth the first round? That's what I'm
putting.
So I would put a cross through both of them.
But definitely McHenry. He's more interested in doing the fishing report on Channel 7 than he is actually playing footy.
I would put a cross through both of them because even if they play decently, the best that I've seen of them, second round at best.
Yeah.
So they've wasted those. 2019 was an absolute butcher job because they picked McCasey. Now, is that exactly on them? I don't know. He didn't really want to say in the AFL, but that was just wrong. They got that wrong.
Yeah.
2020, they picked Luke Pedler. That's a tough one. I'm not too sure.
I don't know. Like last year, he was in the team every week, and now this year
he's in and out.
He's in and out, and
with an injury as well. So maybe he's been a little bit hampered by injury. That'd be the one question mark I've got so far. 2021, Josh Rochelli. I don't know why this has got a tick next to it. This is from the AFL Fox Foot. I think it was on the couch when they gave this. No way is he a tick at the moment. How can you give him a tick? He had a debut of 5 goals. He hasn't done anything this year. This guy's supposed to be, he's calling for midfield minutes from Matthew Nicks. Hey, Josh, you got to earn those minutes. You don't just get them.
Yeah.
Michael Annie in 2022. That's a tick for me. So right now I've given a tick to Fogarty and I've given a tick to Michael Annie. And then in 2023 is Daniel Curtin. So that's
probably a cross because he'll be gone by the time.
Yeah, well, it could be a cross by the time he fucking decides to leave. Which, look, I don't know. But yeah, they've clearly got the first round draft picks. Majority of them wrong. 80% of them wrong. So, yeah, and I'm sure I could even do maybe a video about it like I did with North, looking at their draft picks and what they missed out on. And I mean, sometimes it's a little bit unfair to look at that because players could be picked, you may pick the right player at the end of the day and then they just don't work out. Obviously, it's not guaranteed, but if you don't, in a rebuild, if you don't get your draft picks right, it's going to prolong the rebuild. I think pretty fair to say.
You got to nail your first rounders and hope you find a diamond in the rough in the later picks.
Yeah, well, like I showed out in that North Melbourne video, they, out of all those players they picked up in I think it was an 8-year period, they, in the draft especially, all those players in those picks and drafts and trades and that, only 20 remained on the list, and 10 of those players from drafts and that were outside of the top 35 picks. So they were butchering their first round picks in that, I think it was a 5-year period. I think it was from 2016 to 2021 I picked, which are like players that are supposed to be in their absolute prime now. So I'd be interested. I may even do some research and look at the Crows, but that's something that they haven't done well of.
Yeah.
If anything, the best attributes the Crows have got, other than Dawson and Rankin, are Keys and Hinge, and they were delisted free agents. So their draft, they haven't done a lot for the draft, and I feel like now they can't go for, they can sit there and say they need to go for Elliot Yeo or they need to go for an experienced midfielder. So, Luke Davis-Uniacke was another one was linked. But do they really need to top up? I don't feel like that's where they go here. Now, look, if you're Davis-Uniacke, you can get him because he's a great midfielder and they're doing better than North. So kudos to the Crows. But Elliot Yeo, it does seem like as well that maybe he's going to stay now. Shocker. I didn't think he would stay at his hometown after I hate that sort of trade shit. Anyway, so I think the Crows need to go back to the draft again. And I'm not saying that they need to just completely start their rebuild again, but they need to go back to similar to how North Melbourne have done the last couple of years with their draft picks. And they've picked well. So George Wardlaw, Sheasel, McKercher this year as well. They look like 3 absolute guns that are going to be future players, hopefully, for North. Hopefully they don't fucking leave. But I feel like the Crows have to go back to the draft here. Have to go hard on the draft in the next couple of years. Trade some experienced players. If you can get something, I don't know why they didn't get rid of Matt Crouch last year. He would have got something for you, surely.
Yeah.
And Sam Barry could be playing that role right now for them. Look at some players that have some capital that could be worth something for first round picks and try and just build off of that. Again, if you're looking at Port Adelaide looking at a style that Port Adelaide did when they were doing it, they got that draft of Rosie, Dersma, Butters. You know, 3 first-round picks, and that's how they built, like, all the way now to then, losing prelim finals.
Yeah.
So, if the Crows want to be that, if they want to be the chokers of the AFL, I mean, it's better than being the cellar dwellers. But anyway, what I'm saying is, like, you got to go to the draft here. You got to try and build that depth. Because right now, they've got 2 players in their reserves right now that could potentially come into the team. Curtin and Taylor. So you got 2. So at this point, when your team's playing like crap, you can't really drop anyone because you got 2 players in your reserves. I mean, yes, you got a couple of players on your injury list, but the Taylor Walker thing as well. Surely now they have to get to a point of saying, look, we almost have to let you go so this team can build.
Yeah.
And that may be a huge call. And I don't think they should have got rid of him this year because of how good he played last year. You can't do that, obviously. But it's stunting the growth of the other forward line because they're just bombing. They're just always going to him. And maybe that's what they've needed the last couple of weeks to show that maybe they're not there yet. And maybe people need to be more patient. And it's probably a bit hard for Adelaide because they've been a club that's, it's a 2-club town. And it's a lot easier for, I would say, a North Melbourne to be patient because, they're kind of like not really known about. You don't really think about them. So it's a little bit easier for them to be patient and wait a couple of extra years. But when you're in the heart of South Australia and you're one of 2 teams and you're sitting down the fucking bottom, like you would know, you were a Port fan for so long sitting down the fucking bottom of the ladder. It sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
I mean, I wouldn't know. I barrack for the Swans. I joined the bandwagon. Fuck off, I did. What I'm saying is you would understand. Sitting in a 2-club town, it's very hard to just stay on the bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, and when every single week it's your team in the spotlight.
Yeah.
There's only 2 teams in the spotlight, and then you're in a footy state. You got nowhere to hide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I think we'll end it there with the Crows stuff. So, we kind of rambled on about them for 25 minutes? Anyway, let's move on. So this week we're getting back to our fan favourite segment, of course. The Flog of the Week is back. So, this week, I had a couple of thoughts of maybe changing it quickly to Laura Kane because of a couple of mentions she said about the draft. About the draft and what was the other one that we were talking about? The umpiring. But I conferred with you and I said, look, unfortunately, this guy needs to be on the chopping block this week.
I think he had to be.
He had to be.
He had to be.
He had to be. And it's really unfortunate. And I still love you. You are like, you're not a father figure to me, but, you're like, you're thinking like God, He's like up there.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, John Longmire, unfortunately, is the Flog of the Week this week. And I'm pretty sure everyone knows why. Joel Amati in the game against the Crows had 9 goals and gets taken off in the last few minutes. John, I understand you're going with the team mentality of like team first, and I get it. But the guy's on 9 goals. He was primed for 10. You let the guy stay out there. Now, I understand the injury concern of like, he could get injured. Bro, you tell your teammate, like, look, clearly the Swans teammates were happy about it because every single time in that last quarter when they were looking forward, when the game was won, they were looking for him.
Yeah.
So I don't want to. I think like Caroline Wilson was saying or something like, she took him off. He took him off, so like a team mentality because the other players would like be a little bit annoyed or something. I think she said something like that.
Yeah. Did you hear what Isaac Heaney said after the game?
Yeah, I know. He was like, I'm going to talk to the coaching staff after that because why was he on the bench?
Yeah.
So all the teammates were around him. Now Sam Wicks got in the way of one, and look, that was not very good. I feel like he could have got out of the way. But at the end of the day, surely to reduce the amount of injuries, say to every single person in that forward line, you are outside the 50-metre arc. You give Joel that 50-metre area to work in.
Well, Logan McDonald had a shot with like 5 minutes to go, and he was trying to look for it. But he went back to the square. He was like, just keep leaving, mate. Keep going.
I know, Joel, you're too unselfish, man. Stop fucking... You push everyone out of the way. You tell Tom Papley, fuck off, man. You've had your time. Get out of the fucking way. You tell fucking Hayden McLean, hey, you get on the bench, bro. I am taking this role.
Yeah, I was just like... When he went off, you just were like...
I thought, oh shit, he's injured. Yeah. I was like, oh fuck, he injured himself. He's too hot. He's got leather poisoning. I was like, oh fuck. But apparently, no, they just rested him. And look, I don't think anyone has too many issues about it. Like, whatever. But unfortunately, John, you have to get the Flog of the Week this week. You just don't have any theatre for the sport. You leave the man on. You clear everyone out of that forward.
Even if you have to tell the runner, just say, he needs... Open up the 50, get him 10, and then we'll take you off.
Yeah, exactly. Take him off for his rotation at 10. But fucking hell.
You don't rotate him at 9.
Yeah, you don't rotate him at 9. Like, look, maybe if he was at 8, you take him off. 9, no. He's on the 10. Like, no one gets 10 anymore.
If you want to be honest, if you want to be like Devil's advocate, he kicked 9 goal 1. He could have kicked. He had 10 on it
you're right.
anyway.
I mean, I think he deserves a stint in the VFL for a bit, just to calm down a bit. Because 9 goals 1's not good.
Yeah.
Well, he had 10 touches. He's all about scoring goal. None of this fucking little handball shit.
Yeah, that's why he didn't have a single touch in the first quarter. He's like,
boys,
I'll leave that guy.
I'll leave all that fucking shit touches to you. I'll do the real I'll be the impact player up forward. Anyway, so John Longmire is our flog of the week this week. So I'm sorry, John, but he deserved it. You got to leave him on at that point.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, guys, of course, let's do our tips for round 15. A lot of teams with the bye this week. This is the final week of byes before we go into the end of the season. But my brother has given me his tips as well. We'll start with my tips for this week, though. So, on Friday night, I've gone Carlton over the Cats. On Saturday afternoon, I've gone Port Adelaide over Brisbane. The Swans over the Giants. Saturday night, I've gone Melbourne over North Melbourne. And on Sunday, I have gone Essendon over the West Coast Eagles and the Dockers over the Gold Coast. Now, my brother has gone Carlton over the Cats, the Lions over Port Adelaide, the Giants over the Swans, the Demons over North Melbourne, Essendon over the West Coast Eagles, and finally he's gone Fremantle over the Gold Coast Sun. Let's break down the tips. Now, I wanted to start off with the Carlton v Geelong game. Of course, we both have tipped the same, but I do want to cover why he has gone Carlton. So first of all, he said that Carlton are in better form, winning 4 out of their last 5 compared to Geelong, who have only won 1 out of their past 5. More midfield depth on Carlton's side, and have conceded over 100 points, Geelong, in 3 of the past 5 games. So I tend to agree with that as well. I do think that the Carlton midfield are going to pretty much dominate the majority of this game. I don't expect a few midfielders to come back like Dangerfield. If he was in, I think they'd have a little bit of a chance, but I think the more experienced Carlton midfield will stand up. I think that Sam Walsh may get a little bit of attention from Tom Atkins, but I think they've got enough depth through there, the Blues from Cripps and that they'll be more than fine. Geelong, like my brother has mentioned, they have conceded over 100 points in 3 of their past 5 games. So their defence isn't as good as it once was. And I think it'll either be Owies or a small forward, definitely, of Carlton will go to Tom Stewart. And I think that's been the real key to beating Geelong for quite a while now, is to go to Tom Stewart early and take him out of the game. And for the last few weeks, he hasn't been able to get away. So I think Tom Stewart's just going to find a way to break the tag, because that's the real reason that the Cats are really struggling at the moment. On the other side of things, the Cats, I think, have to somehow get Tom Hawkins and Jeremy Cameron to fire. Cameron has played a little bit up the ground this year. He's good up the ground, but he's not kicking enough goals. And Tom Hawkins, he's been up and down with his form. There was a whole month period where he didn't kick a goal. I think there is one advantage the Cats do have, which is their small forwards. I think if the likes of Myers, Close, and Stengel can hit the scoreboard, they may be in with a bit of a chance, the Cats. But I think the midfield battle is where it's going to be won, and I think Carlton will pretty much dominate the majority of that. After that, we've got the Brisbane and Port Adelaide game. This one is at Adelaide Oval. Now, my brother, the reason why he has picked Brisbane to beat Port Adelaide is he says that Port Adelaide haven't competed against the better sides this year very well. Even though the position of the Lions doesn't say that, the Lions have looked better recently. So since the bye, they've won the last 2 games. I agree with that. Hipwood kicking 6 goals in the past 2 weeks and Danaher with 5. So they've both been recently in very good form. And I think we saw that last week with against the Giants with Jesse Hogan and Riccardi. Neither of them kick goals, but they look very dangerous. So if Port Adelaide can't shut them down, they could be a real concern for the Lions. He also brought up the fact that if Port Adelaide don't tag Zorko, they'll lose the game really quickly. So Dane Zorko has been doing very well off half-back this year and probably been their shining light in a lot of games when they've played really poorly, the Lions. The reason why I've gone Port Adelaide is because I think they need to respond this week. They are a bit of a response team at times, Port Adelaide, and they played pretty poorly against the Giants. They could have been beaten by a whole lot more. So that's where I'm kind of leaning towards that. And I think Port Adelaide, if they can match it in the middle of the ground, I think they got decimated against the Giants last week. I think they can get a little bit on top of the Lions. I am not exactly 100% convinced on the Lions just yet. They have beaten the Bulldogs, who are a very inconsistent team, and they beat St Kilda, and that was just a shootout. So I'm not exactly convinced on the Lions just yet. I think that they are still a long way off their best. And Port Adelaide, I think that they were going to come a bit sluggish off the bye, and that's how they played against the Giants. So that's where I'm kind of leaning for on that one while I'm tipping Port. And another big reason is, of course, playing at Adelaide Oval. The Lions haven't had the best record there. Now, finally, we're going to talk about the Sydney Derby, the Swans and the Giants. This one is at Giants Stadium. So my brother has picked the Giants. It's very interesting. Me and my brother have kind of swapped against them. We're kind of trying to pick when the Swans are going to lose a game. So, look, I don't think by any means the Swans will go all the way undefeated for the rest of the season, go all the way and win the flag. I think that if Sydney are to go and win the flag, they're going to lose a few games on the way. I think, again, like last week against the Crows, this is a bit of a danger game for Sydney. My brother has said that Sydney haven't started well recently, which is very true. They haven't won a first quarter since round 9. He does think that it will cost them this week if it happens again. Also, the home ground advantage, the Swans can't keep winning. So, yeah, he's kind of said that eventually it has to drop off. I had it on the Giants, but I think I've gone back to Sydney on the fact that the Giants had a good win against the Power. But, like I said previously, Port Adelaide were very sluggish and played pretty poorly. I think the Giants got them at their weakest. Well, not at their weakest, but at one of their weaker points. And I think Sydney at full strength, basically, I think that they're going to really do well. I think a big one, though, is Toby Bedford. If you don't know, he tagged last week. I think it was the first time I've ever seen him do it. And he did very well on Butters and Rosie. So he'll either go to Heaney, Warner, or Goulden. I think with his body type, I think it will probably be Goulden, because I don't think he can match up with Warner on the run, and Heaney will be too strong. So I think he'll probably go to Goulden, which will be interesting, because most teams have kind of targeted Heaney or Warner. So it'll be interesting how Goulden can face with the tag. I do remember last year against the Gold Coast Suns, he faced a tag, Errol Goulden. It didn't really do very well for the first half when Took Miller went to him. But in the second half, they broke the tag for some reason, and he ran riot. So I'll be interested to see how the Giants go in with a thought of defensive play on the Swans midfielders. I think it's going to be a really big game. I've picked Sydney. My brother has picked the Giants. And for the rest of the week, we've tipped the exact same. And I do think it is a little bit of a danger game for the Demons, because I don't think they're in very good form at all. In North Melbourne, despite dropping a 53-point lead, they have been playing very well since their bye. So, well, they've played well for their standards anyway. So I do think North Melbourne could be in with a sneaky chance, but look, I'm not tipping them by no means. But guys, of course, with all the tips being read out and everything in between, we will take a look at our AFL tipping comp for the channel. So, this week, I have dropped down to 6th. Really embarrassing. I got 5 this week. So many of you guys got the perfect week. Basically, the breakout between anyone was the Bulldogs-Fremantle game. And unfortunately, that was basically the point of who's going to get 5, who's going to get 6 this week. So looking at it, Brandon is still on top. I don't think he's dropped off the top spot since... I don't even know if he's dropped off at all this year. He's still sitting on top with 84 tips. He's in front by 1 on Paul, who is on 83 tips, so 1 tip behind. Also to Brendan as well, he picked the perfect margin in the first game of the round. So congratulations to him. Looking at my brother, he has gone to 9th. Interesting, he got 4 this week. If you got 4 this week, I don't think you did very well. I got 5, and I was pretty annoyed. I do think the Bulldogs Fremantle game was hard to pick because you don't know which Bulldogs is going to show up. But I do think that the league is starting to set up pretty nicely. Brandon has a 2-point lead on second. Sorry, a 1-point lead on second and a 3-point lead on third, who is Harvey. So a couple of players starting to pull forward now. I am 6 tips off the pace. My brother is 8 tips off the pace. And of course, we have to check down the bottom. Kirk is bottom of the tipping comp. So it looks like that... I can't remember if he was on the bottom last week. It looks like that he would have been because he got 5. The other people around him got 4. I think Brooke's been down there for a couple of weeks. I know Daniel was there a while ago, but had a good week. A couple of weeks ago to break above that. So it looks like Kirk has the bottom spot at the moment. And of course, if you finish bottom spot, you're going to get absolutely nothing. I'm sorry. You are... maybe we'll get you a dunce cap. That'd be pretty funny. But that's kind of all the tipping stuff for this week, guys. That is the league as well. So make sure to let me know down below, guys, who do you think's going to win this week? And also let me know if you think there's a big upset brewing. So, of course, let's finally get to our AFL fantasy breakdown for the week. So, this week, unfortunately, I actually lost my streak. Unfortunately, my team wasn't good enough. I got beaten. It was by the top team. I may have won. Actually, no, I don't think I would have won.
No, you weren't going to even get close.
I only lost by nearly just under 100 points. I was close, but unfortunately, I couldn't win because the stupid fucking app on AFL Fantasy doesn't update until like the game is over almost, and then maybe it will update for you. But yeah, I lost. I did have a couple of good performances. Jordan Clark joining the team did well with 95. Hayden Young did okay. Marcus Bontempelli as the vice was brilliant. How the fuck did Fremantle not tag him? Has he done enough against?
Well, they didn't want to catch the flu.
Yeah, exactly. he should stay with the flu every week. He fucking was brilliant. He got 142, and I had him on vice, so 284 was brilliant. Isaac Heaney was good, 125. Brody Grundy was massive as well, 133. Davis Uniacke, great to get him back into the team. I got rid of him for 1 week for that bye. Brought him back because of Matt Crouch's injury, and he got 100. He's been very good. So on that side, did pretty well. Riley Bonner, I have to try and get rid of him. I couldn't get him this week. Couldn't get rid of him this week. He's on 59. And a lot of reserves, unfortunately, I just had to play. Zach Fisher as well wasn't the greatest with 71 as well, but hopefully he can return. And then, yeah, I had to play Toby Pink, Billy Dowling, what's his name, Logan Morris, who else did I have to play? Charlie Dean and Ravel. So I was never really going to win. I never really had a thought that I could. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of my team going through it. So I'll move to my trades, which is I've had to go... two downgrades, and then I've gone 1 up. So I got rid of Dean this week, and I've got Ari Schoenmaker. I do have enough players to cover, so I thought I'll get him now because I needed to get that money. I got rid of Ravel, and I picked up Bailey Laurie. I saw him play the game before the bye, and it was the first game he played a full game, I think, ever. He's always the sub for the Demons, so he played pretty well. He's only on 216, so I got him. And the last trade, I got rid of Hugo Garcia. And at this stage, I'm thinking about maybe changing it, but this one, I've got Jai Caldwell.
Good copy me now.
Yeah, well, there's no forwards to pick from.
Still no
if I don't have enough for Dane Zorko, so who else am I going to pick from? I may change it to Luke Jackson. The last couple of weeks, he's played okay, and I think maybe they're going to maybe rest Sean Darcy because I don't think he's fit enough at the moment. I think he's had a couple of down weeks and he doesn't really show a lot. So I think maybe Luke Jackson could be an option to bring in. But that's what I've done with my trades this week. Next week, I'll hopefully be trying to get rid of a couple of other players. Hopefully from now, I can just do 1 downgrade, 1 upgrade for the rest of the season and then have my team ready to go. I think it's round 20, the finals start. And hopefully I make them. So how'd your team go this week?
So, well, it's been, 2 months since we last saw my team.
Yeah, well, So how's your team been going?
It was going all right. Like it was going pretty well. I've set up my defense to start to end the bye. Sorry, brought in some other players that have absolutely had stinkers since I brought them in. So last week I did win because I'm playing. The last couple of weeks I've played the bottom teams.
That's good.
So I got some percentage boosters.
Yeah.
So I think the last 2 weeks I've won by 700 and 600 in the past 2 weeks.
Nice.
So
just beating up on the bottom team.
Yeah. Last week was Bailey Dale 110. He's still in the side. Marcus Bontempelli, I avoided it because of the flu. I was like, maybe he'll play forward, and then he kind of play like dog shit. Then Grundy 133, Heaney 125. Then I go to the shit players. This is where it gets really bad. So, I had players like Lee Learin this week, 45. Josh Dacos, 73. Lockie Neal got tagged for 50. Even Will Day, he had a horrible game, 72. But the one player I want to talk about that I had that was so shit was Jeremy Sharp.
Jeremy Sharp, yeah. I thought he was injured.
I did. I thought he was injured. I looked at this about halfway during the third quarter, and I was like, I looked at this thing, it's like, Michael Walters subbed injured. I was like, all right, well maybe he just didn't update on it. I literally turned to the game, and he gets tackled. I was like, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. And he was on 8 at that stage. He finished on 15.
Well, he doubled his score.
You know the one thing that fucked me off? I saw this today. On SEN they show the distance covered. He had 15 Ks.
Yeah, so
He
just
had
wasn't getting the
15
ball.
Ks.
He just wasn't getting the ball.
And he got 15 as a fantasy.
Yeah.
I thought, you absolute wanker.
It must have just not gone on that wing throughout it didn't go out on that wing for the majority of the game.
Jesus Christ.
Because I mean, he had a couple of good, like nearly 100 weeks in a row, I think, didn't he?
So this week I decided my trades. I went 2 downgrades and an upgrade. So I got rid of Darcy Wilson. It was just time to get rid of him with the bye. I got Jed McEntee for Port Adelaide. Got rid of McNeil for the Dogs, and I got Ethan Reid. And I got rid of Frazier from the Dogs, and I got Tom Green at the moment. I'm not confident in that, but there's not a lot of players around 700.
That's the thing. It's like
About
a real
780.
It's such a dead area right now.
Yeah,
especially if you can't really like forwards. You want to get the Zane Zorko, but you can't unless you really you spend a whole week just trading everyone out.
Like there's players in the forward line that I could possibly get, but a lot of them are on the bye this week. Like Dylan Moore.
Liam Baker as well.
Liam Baker. Who were some other ones that are around that space? Even Isaac Rankin.
Yeah, I was even thinking Isaac Rankin. Yeah, he was actually, because he's been playing that midfield minutes, he's actually been getting good scores.
Yeah.
So that was another one. But yeah, a lot of them are on buys. And then right now, the only player I'm thinking of getting next week, and I think I can do it, is because I can get rid of Riley Bonner, is Ed Richards.
Yeah, that's who I was looking at. But how much is he? He's
only like 780. He's not that much. Because of that game against the Swans, he got injured. But if you don't remember that, he was 760, in fact, so he's not even that high at all. But because he's moved into that midfield role, he's a good pickup. But because he played against the Swans, he only played a first half and he got 66, I believe.
Yeah.
So his average isn't the greatest. But without that game, he's moved into the midfield. He's definitely getting some good scores. So that's where I'm going to go next week.
Obviously, I could have got him this week, but because he's got the bye, I need players. And that's another player that's around that dead area. That's because there's just no cash gen at the moment. There's just...
Yeah, like the reserves I've got right now would be Ari Schoenmaker, which hopefully he plays next week. I don't even know.
Yeah, that's the thing.
He was good against the Lions, but he's playing for St Kilda, so who knows if they're going to drop him. Toby Pink, I just had to get him for points, really. In the midfield right now, my reserve is... Who's my reserve mid? I think it's either Billy Dowling or Logan Morris. It's Billy Dowling. Yeah, it's my midfield one. So my forwards, I've got Fantasia there, who's not getting anything. Laurie, who's not getting anything, and Morris. So Morris is really my only one I can get some cash out of right now.
So for me, I've still got Joe Richards. I'm still gonna. I was gonna get rid of him this week, but I was like, if I can just try and keep him, I've got Billy Dowling as a reserve there.
Are you gonna keep him all the way through?
I was going to try. But if, depending...
He's supposed to be gone for 6 weeks when he got injured.
Yeah, so he's got 2 weeks left on the injury. I don't know if he'll come back, though, but I'm just going to leave... I'm going to try and leave it, if I can. Who else is it?
I would almost go back and pick him up.
Ravel. As well.
Ravel, yeah.
He's got Ravel.
The only reason why I got rid of Ravel is because I needed the money to get a somewhat decent forward out of Caldwell or Jackson, because Morris wasn't going to give me enough. So that's why I've kind of gone that way. But yeah, basically, guys, that's all the AFL fantasy chat on the team. So let's just quickly take a look at the ladder. Right now, Brad is still on top of the AFL fantasy after beating me, so had to, unfortunately... I saw he was a Swan supporter. I was like, look, I'll just let you get this one this week, just to stay up top, because I don't think I can make top at this stage. I mean, I'll probably win the flag, but at this stage, I'm just thinking, look, at least if one of us get the minor premiership, then that's fine. So he can get the minor premiership, I'll get the premiership itself. So I thought that was pretty good, decent.
Yeah.
So... right now, he's still on top. He's a game clear as well. Second is still Shillings for Billings. Grundy's Undies is in third. I don't think he's been sitting there for a while. Dave's Diggers is in fourth as well. Looking at me, I am in 8th spot. I got knocked down by one.
Hanging on by a thread.
I'm equal with K-Dog. I think I'm actually playing that guy this week. No, I'm not. I think you could be, actually, though. Yeah, you are. So if you don't win, I'll be fucking
because I've looked at my team and I've got like 3 out.
Great. So yeah, 9th is sitting in K-Dog and he's close. I'm actually playing the guy in 10th, so it's a real danger game for me this week. I have to go and win.
Yeah.
You're sitting in 13th currently, but you've been in good form. 4 you past 5.
Yeah, I've got to try and keep winning, but I don't think I can win it this week. I'm trying to nail my VC captain this week, but Last week I stuffed it up. I had my captain on Sarong and my VC on Sinclair, and it just didn't work.
What did Sarong get last week?
80.
Yeah, so that
He
wouldn't
was
have been very
actually
good.
doing well, and then in the last quarter, he just didn't get near it.
Yeah, the Bulldogs kind of just ran all over them.
So this week I've gone the VC on Brody Grundy and
Yeah.
the captain on Sam Flanders.
Okay, yeah, that's fair enough. I may even just do the same, to be honest. I haven't done... Yeah, my vice captain's going to go to Sam Walsh, but I may change that because I think he could get attention from, what's his name? Tom Atkins. But that could be another option. Looking at the rest of the ladder, looking at it right now, the bottom team is still Mumbus, who has yet to win a game.
Who I just won against.
What a flop! What a comeback!
I know.
I thought it was close, but yeah, looking at it right now, guys, I'm sitting in 8th spot. I had 5 wins in a row, and I was the only team that had it, and then I lost. So 4-1, still pretty decent. The team sitting in 7th spot is Kega Boom, and he was up the top before. He's 2 of the last 5, so he's got to start doing better than that. But looking at the overall ladder as well, Shillings for Billings has taken the lead on that front. He is second on the head-to-head, but top of the scorers. His official rank is 3,151, so we actually don't have a lot of top people, to be honest.
That's why me and you are still competitive in this league.
Yeah, well, right now, you've actually got a better rank than me.
Yeah, I know. The last couple of years I've done better. Well, what? 2 years ago? Yeah,
last 2 years.
2 years I've beaten you.
Yeah, last 2 years you've beaten me. It's interesting because the guy who is K-Dog is actually worse than us as well. But the majority of people that we've we've beaten this year have been better than us. So it's just been unlucky.
Maybe you have been beating
them. I've been beating them. Yeah.
I've got close. I the last couple of weeks, it's good that I've played the badder teams around the buys because I think if I have enough time, I should be able to jump.
Maybe scrape into the 5.
Maybe scrape into the 8, but I'll... Yeah.
Yeah. And looking at it right now, because I'm 12th best and you're 11th best on scores. So we're not doing that great. But it's all about the head-to-head stuff, guys. Yeah. None of this shit of, I got the highest score. I don't care, bro. You got to win the flag.
But between me and you, I want the best.
Yeah, because you're not going to be making the finals.
I don't know if I can make it from this. I think I've just left my run too late.
Yeah. All right. So last thing, I got 2 players with the bye this week. Do you know how many you got?
3. I think I got Dacos, Dale, and one of the forward line players. I think
one of the forward.
I know one of the midfielders I will have.
Yeah, probably another one of the midfielders.
Yeah, well, I think it's Dacos.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, you're probably both the Dacos.
Yeah, I got both Dacos.
Oh, okay.
He actually when he went off last week, he got 133. Josh Dacos when Nick Dacos went off. In the end. But
yeah, we should have kicked him in the jaw or something. Maybe North Melbourne should have done that. It could have been the tactic to use when Will Phillips got subbed out. Anyway, guys, that's basically all we have for the Boundary Riders podcast this week. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you did watch this on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. And of course, if you listened, you make sure to listen to us on Spotify. Make sure to leave us 5 stars and also a follow so you're notified on the podcast every single week, which this week's coming out on a Thursday. We're trying to figure out how my brother and I are going to work it. So depending on if he can join or not, it may be coming out Thursday. If he can't, then probably a Wednesday. But yeah, if you do listen on the podcast on Spotify, then make sure to leave us 5 stars, follow so you're notified on the podcast, the review every single week, and of course the trade rumors videos that we do drop on Spotify, so you guys can listen to it as well. But of course, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and we'll catch you all next week.
See you later, guys.